Hey everybody, we're back. Rick Wagner here. I appreciate you joining us, however you're doing it. I know we have some few viewers on YouTube, and we record this for the website. But you can get my website at The Rick Wagner Show or politicalviking.com. And I think Political Viking is still my favorite, simply because if there's ever a time to feel like being a berserker, it is now. And it's been a little bit since we posted here. Part of that because there's so much going on. We've been doing some other things. Check out the website there, politicalviking.com, and there's all sorts of stories and links, and I'm adding some more to it as we go. I also put up something that's kind of unusual there, which is an old. It's in video now, but was originally a series of cartoons that was done to simulate the steps in Frederick Hayek's Road to Serfdom, kind of explaining it in cartoon form. It's really kind of cool. I put that up on the website at Political Viking, and I think it's still up in the kind of the upper right-hand corner. You can click on that, and it's a YouTube video, and it just plays out. But it's pretty interesting to watch. There's some other things up there as well. I also link to Victor Davis Hanson's regular podcast that Change 3 days a week, so you can go to the website and check that out too. Well worth doing. But as for ourselves, as berserkers, which I believe we all pretty much have to be these days because the world's kind of berserk, it's difficult to know what to do. I mean, every week seems to bring to us more unusual and frankly, the kinds of things that you never thought you'd hear. I know this week that I heard that in Australia, well, I actually saw some video of them on Australia, where the police are out actually checking people's coffee cups in, I want to say it's Sydney, and because if you're outside without a mask, one of the only reasons you can do that is if you're actually drinking something. So people walking around with coffee cups will have the police come up and shake the cup to make sure there's something in it, that they're not just fooling them by like carrying an empty cup around. If you could imagine that as being something that happens in a free country, which Australia purports to be, you can see why we're all worried about what's happening here. And the absurdity of it all, I think, is what makes us a little nervous from time to time. You're laughing, and then you're thinking, I'm laughing now because it seems ridiculous, but at some point the ridiculous becomes onerous. And that's what we're all going to have to try and prevent. No, we can do that is to try and put a stop to the nonsense that's going on everywhere. And the best way you can do that is to vote in local elections, wherever you're at. I don't care where you are in the United States. Certainly here in Colorado, almost all of the states have off-year elections. And you know what they usually do on off-year elections is they do things like school boards or councils, city councils, town councils, sometimes commissioners, things like that. And we oftentimes let that slide by because we think, oh, that's not a big deal. Many times they're nonpartisan, so you're not even exactly sure where people stand unless you know them or have some kind of link to them. And remember, these nut jobs that we end up having on the national stage or our state stage even don't spring full-bodied from the head of Zeus like Athena. They start someplace else. They start pestering people at lower and lower levels, right? They start off being a problem in a school board or a city council, and people think, oh, well, I don't really know that much more about it. It doesn't pay much. It doesn't pay at all. And then in a few years, we wonder where these nut jobs, like, say, Pete Buttigieg, who's our Secretary of Transportation, that I'm not sure knows how to drive a car, that was caught unloading a bicycle from the back of not a van, but actually an SUV for the Department of Transportation, a block from the Capitol, so he could pretend to ride his bike to work one day. That's what we're stuck with. And this just doesn't just happen. I mean, they just don't appear out of thin air. We allow it to happen. We let them get started, right? And then they get a little constituency, and it looks as though they get a little money. And then someone like George Soros discovers them and figures, well, they're kind of stupid, and they'll do whatever we ask. And their own personal advancement is much more important than the rest of humanity. So they're just the kind of person we want. And next thing you know, they're in front of a lot more people doing a lot more damage. So you got to spend a lot more time. You have to look at your local elections, races, board seats, whatever the case may be. It sounds tedious. It's a lot more exciting to talk about, hey, the Chinese are circulating a hypersonic missile around the planet that can drop in and blow us up pretty much any time they wanted to, and it looks as though we were completely surprised by that and probably couldn't do anything about it. That's something to think about. But at the same time, how did we get to the point where we can't do anything about that, or that we're so far behind. Well, we get that way because we concentrate too much on things that aren't important in our military. And that all comes right back to what we're talking about. You know, these politicians that started off at the local levels a long time ago and have done no good for anyone. Slowly they percolate up into the system until they're running everything. And they're deciding what gets funded for our military and what the objectives of the military are. The military seems to think in our country anymore that their job is to weed out either anybody that's capable in their own ranks or spend a lot of time chasing around after illusionary supremacists or something that there's never been any proof of that really exist in any kind of meaningful numbers in the military. So then we wonder why we're so far behind. And even things that seem disconnected from our everyday lives, scary, like the Chinese missile flying around the planet that they had the other day, but they are connected because these things wouldn't happen. They wouldn't get as far as they have, or we wouldn't be as far behind in doing something about it if we'd paid a little more attention to who we start allowing into public office at the beginning. Remember, if you stop somebody from being in the race or winning the race early on, then maybe you can stop them from ruining the race for everybody else later on. So pay attention to what's going on, folks out there. That's what part of being a disruptor is. You have to change the narrative. And we've gotten to the point where the narrative is that people are just too complacent. Liberty is not free. And it's not something that maintains itself while we sit around. We'll be back a little more often here at the Viking, so take care of yourself.